Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson, we are going to discuss how we can connect Grafana to Elasticsearch. So here you can see I already have Elasticsearch set up, and basically I'm just running this Elasticsearch on a Docker container, and you can see this is the default configuration. Now there are two ways to connect to Elasticsearch. As you know, you can always use REST API to connect to Elasticsearch and then query the Elasticsearch data. So you can use the same mechanism when connecting from Grafana to Elasticsearch. You can just go ahead and use Infinity data source. I have talked about Infinity data source in my previous lesson, but here I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Okay, so basically I can just go ahead, go to connections, go to add new connection, and here you can go ahead and search for Infinity. So anything basically which is related to APIs, you just want to query some API, you can always do that using Infinity data source. So let's go ahead and click on add new data source, and here I'm just going to go ahead and rename it to ES API, and then we can just go to authentication. Here we are going to go ahead, go to basic authentication, and I'm also going to go ahead and provide the username and password which is required to connect to Elasticsearch. So username is Elastic and password I'm just going to go ahead and provide the password. Now here are the allowed hosts. So let's say if you want to allow only this host, you can just go ahead, copy this Elasticsearch URL, go ahead and paste it, click on add. Now we can go ahead and everything else is okay. I think in network we can just go ahead and enable TLS verification skip. We need it because we are just using self-signed certificate. So if you are not using it or not enabling skip TLS verification, this API call is going to fail. So that's why I have enabled it. Now we can just go ahead, go to health check. Now in health check we can enable custom health check, and we can go ahead and provide this API. If this data source is able to connect to this API, basically health is going to be okay. So let's go ahead, click on save and test. Now here you can see everything is okay. So we have just created a data source called ES API, but we are using Infinity data source. So we are just going to go ahead and basically make some API calls to query Elasticsearch. Now I'm also going to show you how to connect to Elasticsearch data source in the later part of this section, so please stay tuned. For the time being, we can go ahead and click on new dashboard, and we can go to add visualization. Now here I can go ahead and select ES API. Now here first of all, let's say if we just want to show these information, so I can just go ahead, copy this URL, and here we have selected ES API in the data source. Now I'm just going to go ahead and change it to table because this kind of information we can show in a tabular structure. Now here you will see some default URL. Just go ahead and remove it and paste the URL of Elasticsearch and hit enter. Now you can see we have cluster name, cluster UID, name, tagline, and version. Now under version we have some other information as well. For example, here you can see under version we have a JSON, basically a key value structure or document, whatever you call it, and inside this we have version number. Now there are some information which may or may not be of interest to you, but yeah, these are the information which are available there. So let's say if we want to split version, we can just go ahead, go to transform data, we can go to add transformation, and here just search for JSON. Here you are going to see extract fields, and here we can provide this JSON column name. Then it is going to split everything or every key value pair inside this to a new column. So let's go ahead and select version, and now you can see we have additional columns. So all the key value pair which was in version has been split, and now we are able to see all the fields in the separate column. Now let's say you don't really need all of these fields, maybe you are interested in only in some specific fields. So you can go ahead, add another transformation, and we can search for hide. You are going to see organize field by name. So let's go ahead and select it. Now here you can decide which is the field which you want to show. Now here I'm just going to probably keep cluster name, remove cluster UID, probably tagline is also something which you don't need, version is also something which we don't need, and we can probably keep the build date, build flavor, we are going to hide. So you basically got the idea. If you want to hide or show something, you can go ahead and do that. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and keep only these information. Now for panel title, probably I'm just going to get rid of panel title. I'm just going to remove it, and this is how it is going to look like. I'm just going to go ahead and click on apply, and here you can see we have basically Elasticsearch cluster related information available here on the top. Now let's say if you want to search something else, for example, let's say if you want to query maybe something related to how many indexes are there, so you can always go ahead and hit those APIs. Now as a proof of concept, you can see here I'm on Postman. Now here you can see I have DS Metricbeat index, and if I click on send, I'm going to get some data. Okay, so basically I can go ahead and use the same API and configure it and get the same information there. Okay, so this is one way of connecting to Elasticsearch. Now let's go ahead and save it. and then we are going to talk about the other way. So I'm just going to call it Grafana Elasticsearch demo. Let's go ahead, save it, and now we can go ahead and go to data sources, and here we can go to add new data sources. We can search for Elasticsearch. Here you can see we do have Elasticsearch. Let's go ahead, click on it, and now here we are going to connect to Elasticsearch directly without using JSON API. So let's go ahead, and in the URL we are going to go ahead and provide Elasticsearch URL. So I'm just going to go ahead, copy it, and we can go ahead, paste it here. In the authentication, again I'm using username and password, so I'm going to go ahead and select basic authentication. We do need to provide username and password, so it is going to be Elastic, and the password is going to be the password which I have set up. So let me go ahead, enter the password. Again I'm going to go ahead and skip the TLS verification, and everything else looks okay. Now we need to provide index name. So in this case I'm enabling Metricbeat. So here you can see I do have Metricbeat. I'm just going to go ahead and create Metricbeat collection, which is basically going to go ahead and create an index which is called something like .ds-metricbeat and then some date time. I believe you are already familiar with Elasticsearch, so that's the reason we are not going to go ahead in quite detail of Elasticsearch, because Elasticsearch again is a completely different topic, and here we are talking about Grafana. So basically Metricbeat is going to go ahead and collect system related information like CPU utilization, memory utilization, some information about when the system was rebooted and things like that. So in order to start collecting metrics, I can just go ahead and do Metricbeat-E. Of course we do need to do some additional configuration. For example, here you can see in the Metricbeat.yml I have set up some properties. For example, here you can see I have provided information related to Elasticsearch, and also I have enabled or disabled some of the things, and I'm collecting information only about system metrics, but you can go ahead and collect a lot of information using Metricbeat. Anyway, that's enough for now. Let's go ahead and run Metricbeat-E, and now it has started sending data to Elasticsearch. Now if you want to see the data which is being sent to Elasticsearch, you can go ahead, go to Postman. Here you can see I'm basically performing a search against this DS Metricbeat, and then here you can see we are getting some information. Now here you can see there are system network related metrics, and there are basically metrics for a lot of other things. For example, CPU memory utilization, disk utilization, network in or out. So all of those metrics are now being collected and being sent to DS Metricbeat index. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this index name. I have copied the index name, but one more thing which I want to show you, here you can see we do have a timestamp field. Here you can see I have @timestamp field. Now this field automatically is being ingested when we are sending data using Metricbeat, or if you send it using FileBeat as well, you are going to see this by default. So this is quite important, because when you are creating a connection in Grafana, you will need a field which is having a timestamp. So here we have a field which is called @timestamp, which is containing timestamp. So this is quite important. Now we can go to Grafana. Here you can see we are in Grafana now. Here we had to provide index name, so I had copied the index name. I'm going to go ahead, paste the index name here. Now for the field which contains timestamp is actually called @timestamp, so we are going to leave it as it is. But in your case, let's say if you have a field which is called TS, and this is a field which contains timestamp, you can just change it to TS. If you don't have prefix, you can go ahead and remove that prefix. That is not something which is mandatory. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and stick to @timestamp, because this is a field which is available. Now we can go ahead and click on save and test, and here you can see everything is successful. We are successfully able to connect to Elasticsearch. Now we can go ahead, go to the dashboard which we were building. So I'm just going to go to open menu, go to dashboard, and here you can see we have Grafana ES demo, and this is what we have created as of now. Now here we can just go ahead, click on add, go to visualization. Here you can see in the data source, I'm going to go ahead, change it to Elasticsearch, and here you can see if I choose Elasticsearch, you can see there are some data which is available here. I can go ahead, of course, change the filter to, let's say, maybe last 5 minutes, because from last 5 minutes we are sending data. I just enable the script. Now here you can see we have different metrics available, so I'm just going to go ahead, change it from count to average, and in the field you can go ahead and select the field. For example, let's say if you are interested in CPU idle, you can just search for CPU.idle, and here you can see we do have metrics related to system CPU idle percentage. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it, and here you can see data related to that. Now here on the right hand side you can just scroll down and you are going to see an option of what to do with something which is not connected. So here you can see for connect null values it is set to never. We can just go ahead and change it to always, and here you can see it is just going to show a smooth line. Now here you can see this value is basically being shown in percentage. So here you can see it is showing 0.96 or whatever. What I will do is I'm just going to go ahead and change this text series to 100%. So this is going to be shown in percentage. Now of course you can go ahead and see other metrics as well. For example, I can just go ahead and add a metric, and then again I can go ahead and click on average, and let's say I'm interested in again some CPU metrics. So I'm just going to go ahead and type CPU here, and maybe we are interested in CPU total. So here you can see once I do CPU total, I have a metric which is called system.cpu.total percentage. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it. So here you can see now we are seeing CPU idle percentage and CPU total percentage here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on apply, and here you can see we have now built first panel. I'm just going to go ahead, bring it down. Now here you can see we have built our first panel using Elasticsearch as a data source. Now of course I'm not going to go on and build each panel one by one, because we are smart enough and we know there are already pre-built dashboards available. For example, here you can see in Grafana dashboards we do already have system matrix template available. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this template, and this is going to show us information about, here you can just zoom it and see it is going to show us quite useful information. For example, it shows information about system load, system state, total CPU cores available, total memory, all disk status. So whatever you need basically related to system monitoring, all of those information is available here in this dashboard. So I'm just going to go ahead, copy this dashboard ID, and we are going to go ahead and create, we are going to go ahead and import dashboard. So let's go ahead, import dashboard. Now if you want to save it, you can just go ahead, save it. In this case I'm just going to go ahead and discard it, and I'm just going to paste this ID, then click on load, and here you will need to provide the Elasticsearch data source. So we created Elasticsearch, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that one, then click on import. Now once we do that, you can see we are not really getting the information which we were looking for, but we can always just go ahead and tweak the query. So just go ahead and click on edit. Now here you can see we have loosened query available in this dashboard. So I guess the thing which we need to go ahead and change it here is I'm just going to go ahead and remove metric set.module, because this is not something which is required in this case. So here you can see now as soon as we remove it, we are able to see system load. Now I'm going to go ahead, click on apply. I'm now just going to go ahead, go to state. I guess this is something which I need to remove from everywhere. Now this is something which is going to depend on the how you have configured Metricbeat. So in this case I need to remove it, but in your case you may not need to remove it, or you may need to prefix something else. Okay, so this is something which I'm going to leave it up to you guys. But basically in my case I have to go ahead and remove Metricbeat.module, because everything is just going to go ahead and start from system. So this is how I'm going to go ahead and keep it. Now I'm not going to do it for everything, but I just want to show you that this is a working template. So if I just go ahead and change everything, here you can see this is the total memory which is available, and in the disk also I can just go ahead and remove it. I need to keep it only from system. Go ahead, click on apply. So yeah, all of this information is correct. I can just go ahead and change in all the panel, but basically just wanted to demonstrate you how you can go ahead and do it. So if you just want to go ahead and use some pre-built template, you may need to make some small changes, and then template or dashboard is going to be up and ready, or you can just go ahead and build everything from scratch as I was showing you previously. So all of these data now is basically coming from some collector like FileBeat or Metricbeat or things like that. But let's say if you want to create your own Python program, maybe you are inserting your own data to Elasticsearch, and you want to see how you can go ahead and see those kind of data as well. So now we are going to go ahead and see an example of that. Now in my case, I do have actually an index. Let me just go ahead and see whether that index still exists. So I actually created an index called metric, and I was sending some data to that metrics index using Python. So right now that index doesn't exist, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you the program which I was running to send data to metric index. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to the server. Now here if I do ls, here you can see I have a Python program which is called insert matrix to elasticsearch.py. If I just go ahead and open up this program, you can just see what I'm trying to do here. So here you can see these are some modules which we are calling. Then here are the Elasticsearch credentials, and here we are creating a connection to Elasticsearch. Here we are specifying the index name, which is matrix, And here we are telling what are the fields which we are going to send. So we are going to send a field called timestamp, which is going to be of date type, and then we are just going to go ahead and send CPU usage percentage, disk usage percentage, memory usage percentage. Now this is just some dummy data which I'm going to go ahead and send, but in your case it can be, let's say if you are collecting information related to sales, probably it is going to be some sales data, or if you are monitoring some custom application, it is going to be some information related to that custom application. Now here you can see this is just some chat GPT program, and all what it is doing is just creating some random value. Here you can see it is just creating some random value for CPU usage, memory usage and disk usage, and then sending that to our Elasticsearch. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this program. Here you can see Python 3 insert matrix to Elasticsearch, and here you can see it has started sending data to Elasticsearch. Now I'm running this program after every 60 seconds. So here you can see in the program we have sleep interval of 60 seconds. So it is going to send one entry every 60 seconds. Now I can go ahead or increase or decrease the value of these, but in my case I think one entry per minute is enough to demonstrate you how it is going to work. Now we are going to go ahead, go to Postman, and going to see what is the data which has been inserted. So here you can see in the metric, now this metric is basically the index name which I have created. Now we can just go ahead, click on send. Is it called metric or matrix? So I guess it is called matrix. Yeah, it is called matrix. So here you can see this is the data which is being inserted here. Okay, so we have some data coming here, and I guess the data was previously existing as well, but since I had typed metric rather than matrix, so that's the reason previously we were not able to see the data. Anyway, so basically you can see we have like a total 147 entries available in Elasticsearch, and now we are going to go to Grafana and going to visualize this data. So let me go ahead, go to Grafana. So right now we are in Grafana. So we have set up one data source. For example, here you can see there is a data source setup. I'm just going to go ahead, save this dashboard, and this is the data source which we have set up, which is called Elasticsearch. Now here, one thing if you notice, I have actually hard coded this index name. So that's the reason I'm just going to go ahead, go to data source, and going to go ahead and create a new data source. And now in this one, probably we can just call it ES custom, and I'm going to go ahead, paste the Elasticsearch URL, and then of course we need to enable authentication. I need to provide username Elastic, and also need to provide the password. And then we are going to go ahead, skip TLS verification or validation rather. And then here in the index name, we are going to go ahead and provide the index name, which is matrix. And here you can see in the time field name, we do need to provide a time field. So now in this case also, I think the field which I'm creating is called timestamp. For example, here you can see again in the program, I'm actually creating a field which is called @timestamp. But if in your case it is a different name, you need to provide a different name here. So I'm just going to leave it to timestamp and just going to go ahead, click on save and test. Now here you can see connection is successful. So we should be able to go ahead and start building a dashboard. So let's go ahead, click on building a dashboard. Now here we can go ahead, go to add visualization. Now in this case, we are going to go ahead and select ES custom because this is the data source which we want to connect to. Now here you can see we have various options available. So if you want to see some metric, you can go to matrix. If you want to see logs, for in this case, I can just go ahead, click on logs. And here also I can just go ahead, change this from time series. I can go ahead and change it to logs. And here you can see each entry which is being sent to Elasticsearch is going to be shown here. We can of course go ahead and enable this time as well, so we can see the latest entry has been sent just now. Now this is the time when actually we enabled it. So in last 4 minutes, 4 entries has been sent to Elasticsearch. So I'm just going to go ahead, click on apply, and here I'm just going to go ahead and increase the height, so we can just expand each of these entry. Now you can see here in each of the entry we have CPU usage percentage, disk usage percentage, and memory usage percentage metric being sent. Now if you want to visualize this, we can go ahead and create another visualization by going to add visualization and then choosing time series. And then in this case we don't want count, we want average of each of the metric which we are sending, which is CPU disk percentage. And then I'm just going to go ahead, add another metric. I'm just going to go to average, and we want disk usage percentage. We are going to go add another metric. Again, we want average, and we want average of memory usage percentage. So this is how the data is being sent. Again, we need to enable connecting that, disconnect this value. We want to change it from never, we want to change it to always, so we can just see some smooth lines. I'm just going to go ahead, change it to last 15 minutes. So here you can see this is the time when we started sending data, and here you can see utilization percentage. So I'm just going to go ahead, click on apply, and here you can see, so here we have logs, and here we have kind of visualization which is just telling us average utilization of CPU, disk and memory. By the way, here we can just go ahead and compare this value. For example, here you can see CPU usage percentage was 82.6, 78, 46. Okay, yeah, so I guess this is correct. This is giving us average percentage utilization. Now let's say you want to see max usage under this selected interval, so you can just go ahead, probably create another visualization. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead, click on stat, and I'm just going to change it from count to max, and I'm going to go ahead, select CPU usage, and we are going to go ahead, select max again, and we are going to change it to disk usage. Going to go ahead, add another metric. Let's go ahead, select max again, and we are going to go ahead and select memory. So this is just showing us maximum utilization for CPU, disk and memory. Now if you don't really want title, you can just go ahead, remove the title, and probably you don't really want to see this label as it is. So you can just go to transform data, go to add transformation, and here you have an option of renaming field by regex. So you can just go ahead, rename it by regex. For example, in this case, maybe you don't really need max. For example, I can just go ahead and do max, and here you can see now we are getting rid of max. Now maybe if you don't really need underscore usage percentage, you can just go ahead and paste it here, and here you can see now we have CPU, disk, memory, and we can just probably in the title we can provide it max utilization. Let's go ahead, click on apply. Okay, so this is just telling us max utilization of CPU, disk and memory, and then we have a trend line which is just telling us CPU, memory utilization over a specific period of time. If you want to go into detail, we can just go ahead, go to this log panel and see a specific entry. So that's all I had in this session. If you have any specific query, please feel free to write in the comment box and I'll be more than happy to answer it. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe. I'm going to see you again in the next lesson.